What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're jumping back into Destiny 2 Season of Arrivals, with a bunch of news and updates to talk about. So firstly, we will speak about a new way to gain some power very quickly this season, and then we're also going to touch on potential release dates for upcoming exotics, hidden perks, and Savathun's Eyes. It's safe to say there are some really cool quests and objectives coming up, and that includes some secret upcoming events, the potential destruction of our ally on Mars, and a new secret room which we'll visit during an exotic quest. It's also possible that Bungie are going to be reprising some raids. We've got some updated raid loot to talk about, and some interesting character references, including Aldrin and a chicken. Those are two separate incidents, by the way. But also, Bungie say D3 isn't going to be a thing, so safe to say there is a mixed bag of content in this video, but nonetheless, I hope you guys enjoy it. Firstly, the Wither Horde, everyone's new favourite grenade launcher, of course is a bunch of fun in general in the game, but also appears to be able to destroy some raid bosses in an incredibly short period of time. And DMG did take a moment to point out that this is unintentional and will be fixed, so expect a timeline soon and enjoy it while it lasts. And so for the moment, it doesn't sound like the exotic's going to be disabled or anything like that, but some kind of adjustment will be made in the future so that it's a little bit less delete-y, I guess. Something to be aware of this season that we've been noticing over the past couple of days is that if you're looking to climb towards the power cap this season, which unfortunately applies to me because last season I was finishing our house renovation and so have started this season way lower powered than normal, but the point is that the new Umbral engrams are a really good way to gain this kind of power because when you focus them, most of the time, they actually end up dropping at a much higher power level than what they initially state they're going to be. So you can see here, I have one at 1004 power, and if I turn that in without focusing it, it'll end up dropping at the stated level. But once you focus it, and you can focus it in any direction, as far as we know, but once you do it, you seem to gain a few levels most of the time. So right here, I get a 1008 level drop. But you can just keep doing this all the way up to the non-pinnacle cap this season. So by farming with a decent team in the event, you can get an engram around about every 10 minutes, and sometimes they'll actually drop focused if you're lucky. But otherwise, if you go ahead and focus them, then very, very often you'll end up getting a higher power drop. We're not sure if it's a glitch or whether it's completely intended, but I think it's definitely worth taking advantage of now if pre-pinnacle power is what you're chasing. Just be sure to farm enough currency to actually focus the engrams, so if you pick up all of the bounties, complete them, but also run patrol missions at the same time as the event, or in between events, and a decent mixture of other kind of playlist stuff, then of course they do drop in random amounts. So I know some of you guys will already know this or will have noticed it over the past couple of days, but it's certainly a good shout if you want fast non-pinnacle power, or if you've cleared all of the other drops for the week and want to keep making progress. Now though, let's speak about some of the upcoming content this season, and some pretty interesting stuff related to it. So, Carlacage pointed out that we're receiving entries of the new lore book The Singular Exegete every week when we complete the interference mission on Io. But there's an entry called Gift, and this details Eris actually receiving a branch from the tree that we see there. And this correlates to a quest step called Gift, which also references a branch seething with darkness. And according to the schedule, the piece of lore should drop on the reset of July 7th. And of course that is 7/7, and is the same day that Moments of Triumph kicks off in the gate. And this quest, as far as we know, is almost certainly for the Ruinous Effigy, the new trace rifle for the season. And while we haven't been able to look in depth at all of its perks and things like that, there is a hidden trait in the database this season which players believe could be for the weapons. So it's called Evolution, and it reads, transmutation spheres you create can be picked up and wielded as weapons by you or your allies. And they include a light attack, heavy attack, and you can guard or drain nearby combatants. And obviously this sounds like a pretty crazy perk to have, and the sphere icon for the perk also looks visually kind of similar to what we see the Ruinous Effigy actually doing in the gameplay trailer. And the fact that the perk is described as a legendary trait doesn't necessarily mean it can't be on an exotic weapon. Quite a few perks in the game actually appear this way, despite being on exotics, so let us know what you think about that. But we also have confirmation of something else, and so spoiler alert right here, but players have noticed curious hidden orbs on various locations of the game since the update, and we speculated that they look like eyes, but a hidden Season 11 Triumph confirms this. So Hive God Optometrist, find and destroy all of Savathun's eyes, and we can see that there are a total of 50 of them. And so there we go, this will be the actual objective. And we know currently that the eyes can't be destroyed, but the most likely weapon that could do it would probably be the Ruinous Effigy, and if it does leave transmutation spheres, that perk description right there, then maybe those will be capable of taking out the eyes as well, who knows. And when we look at lore from that same exotic quest, we can see the text, Savathun's scouts chase the pyramids like hungry dogs. She changed their will with ritual and spellcraft, destroy them, let the branch consume the marionette's bound essence and stabilize it by consuming calcified fragments, my incantations will coup Savathun's binding ritual and link the pyramid's gift to you. And so the entire theme of the weapon and the quest is gifted power and incantations, but the entire purpose is to reduce the Watch of Savathun. So just something interesting to point out about that piece of content. And of course, getting the weapon in the first kind of third of the season makes sense, as it looks like we're going to need it to destroy those eyes later on. Also briefly on the timing of content drops, JP Deathblade's Today in Destiny site has the current API schedule for Eververse items on display, and the Traveler's Chosen ornament is listed for August 8th, so we'll quite possibly have the weapon by then, or indeed the quest will begin by then, and as far as we can tell, the exotic version of Traveler's Chosen will result from 2 very long quest lines where we evacuate 4 locations of Guardians aware of the upcoming destruction under the Watch of Savathun and the Pyramids, so the quest actually has us run some of the highlight missions, adventures, and strikes from each of the locations that are going to go away. So when we run it, it's probably going to be best to think of it as a farewell quest first and an exotic quest second. It's probably going to be pretty long, so prepare for that. We should continue with the spoiler alerts right here though, and it looks like we are going to be getting an end of season live event, so skip ahead if you don't want any details about it. It would appear that the entire story thread will potentially culminate in an end of season live event. And so we can see an emblem here called Calamity Protocol, and the source reads end of season event. But importantly, we can see the Warmind tech icons with a huge caution, and the name Calamity Protocol, of course, in itself sounds kind of sinister. And so obviously, if Rasputin's core is on Mars, then it faces significant threat when Mars is removed or destroyed. And there is some lore that gives us an idea of what to expect, and even the possibility of an Exo Rasputin in the future. And so as Anna Bray watched the Guardian Sparrow rocket across Hellas Basin for the last time, she saw a confidant who had believed in her when no one else would. And this really sounds like the description of the end of Mars, essentially. It goes on to read, the building was nearly empty. She had sent as much tech to the tower as they could handle, an entire freight vessel's worth, packed to bursting. And she turned to the large glass window overlooking silent Warsat cannons. There were no Cabal, the death buried beneath Mars had quieted, Valkyrie subroutines that could be maintained remotely remained active, just in case. And Jinju ran final checks on the jump ship. A dark pyramid loomed overhead. An experimental exo chassis was secured in the ship's cargo hold, 1 foot in front of the other. The lore here is actually pretty incredible. And it sounds like, essentially, Anna Bray, knowing that Mars is about to be lost, has unpacked as many important things about Rasputin, as much Clovis Bray tech as possible. But also, there's a teaser right there to that experimental exo chassis that was secured in the ship's cargo hold as they begin to make their very final escape. But this potentially links to some stuff that's in the game, some upcoming quests, and locations. So in the game right now, a hidden room has been found at Rasputin with an objective marker at one of the terminal screens. So as you're heading into the interior of the Warmind, one of the rooms with a secret entrance right here actually has an objective marker that draws you to one of the terminals. It could indeed be linked to evacuation orders and actually saving Rasputin, because in the evacuation exotic quest, step 19 has us actually go and investigate the signal. But in addition, we have to collect pieces of Rasputin's shattered frame on Mars, so it links entirely with the Anna Bray lore where she's shipping off important parts of Rasputin, and indeed that experimental exo. So does this mean that initially Rasputin is going to be completely lost? Of course, if Mars is actually destroyed, then that is going to be the case, with the exception of the scraps that us and Anna Bray managed to save. And that possibility that in the future Rasputin could actually be turned into a walking, talking exo. It's definitely very curious stuff, so let us know what you think down below. Away from that though, also in the Duress and Egress book that we got this season, which I'm viewing on Ishtar Collective right here, I'll link that down below, it's a really awesome site that collects all of the lore in the game. And also in this book, there's a reference to Uldren that suggests Zavala kind of understands the Vanguard dare, and the person who technically fits these shoes. So Zavala says, when Cade passed, I saw the fracturing of the Vanguard as a path towards inevitable failure. And he goes on to say to Anna Bray, relax, I'm not offering you the job, unless you killed Cade, and we've had the wrong man this whole time. And she says, if I did, would you forgive me? And Zavala replies, I'd understand. Ikora told me back then that an object in motion stays in motion. I've always admired the phrase, but I must admit, it could be difficult to adhere to. And the interesting thing about this is that Zavala for the first time kind of references the actual Vanguard dare and the fact that Uldren was the person that took Cade's life. But also, he indicates the Vanguard's kind of potential position of forgiveness over Cade's death, right? and what Akora had said about it specifically as well. And so while it isn't a confirmation, and it's kind of a distant reference in a way, but it's also one of the first times that the Vanguard has kind of outlined the potential of Aldrin actually being the Hunter Vanguard, right? So it's an interesting continuation or tease to that story, but we'll have to see if it's going to happen. And I would imagine that any new Hunter Vanguard, whoever it could be, if we get one, is possibly something that we'll get after the fall of this year, especially with all of the other story stuff going on. Although Bungie have surprised us quite a few times with characters recently, so we'll simply have to wait and see. Zavala did give reference to Cade's chicken, the Colonel though, because Anna asked him, what happened to Cade's chicken? And he replied, I believe Saint has anointed it as some sort of Pigeon Lord. He goes on to say, finish your drink before the Lord of Pigeons summons us to attack the pyramids. And so for any Guardians who are severely worried about the fate of the Colonel, it would seem that he's in good hands with the bird-loving Saint 14. On to some gameplay and hidden stuff that's pretty interesting though. Various raid armors do seem to have been updated to 2.0 with the current season marker on them, and this includes all Leviathan raid gear from the original raid, but also the raid lairs and Crown of Sorrow. And interestingly, we know that these are going away alongside the 4 destinations and Leviathan in September, so it looks possible that Bungie plan to give us the chance to grab 2.0 sets of the gear before that actually happens. Although Last Wish is there as well, so maybe that's going to get some love. But there's something else very interesting associated with raids here, and there's an emblem hidden in the database, but it's called No Power in the Verse Can Stop Me. And when looking at the source for the emblem, it says the Raid Ring Promotion Event. And so that would suggest that some kind of raid-related promotional event is going to be taking place in the future. That could potentially link to reprising raid gear. Maybe there'll be kind of a mini Age of Triumph for the raids currently in the game before they go away. Of course, we might just be getting a bit too overexcited. It could even be linked to a raid that we're going to get in September, right? A brand new raid definitely seems the likely focus of some kind of promo event like this, so there are a few possibilities, but the fact that this is in the database certainly suggests that the Raid Ring promotional event will be a thing. We're just going to have to wait and see exactly what it is. There's another promotion that Bungie may be running in the summer right here, and if you've enjoyed supporting the Bungie Foundation, the Make-A-Wish charities they support and things like that, it would appear the Empathetic Shell is going to be a reward for making some kind of donation, and of course, we've got EGX and things like that taking place over the summer, so that'll be a pretty cool thing to look forward to. However, finally, if you hadn't heard, Luke Smith essentially told Dr. Lupo in a Q&A the other day that Bungie doesn't plan to make a Destiny 3. And we'd speculated that this was kind of the case and they just hadn't really said it yet. And Luke Smith went on to say that splitting the Destiny community was frustrating and they didn't want to see that happen again by making a Destiny 3. But also on the subject of the name of the game, Ryan Gilliam at Polygon asked Luke Smith a question, and he said at this time, we're going to keep focusing our efforts on the game itself. There are a lot of moving parts for changing the name, whether it's work on the platforms, string files, title screens, storefront. There are a bunch of really successful games with 2s on the front, and so it looks like Destiny 2 is going to keep the name for quite some time. But also Bungie are now trying to remove that idea of really having a third title, and Destiny 2 being an ongoing supported live game is pretty much the indefinite reality by the looks of things. So give us your thoughts about that. If they can cycle the content properly, then it has the potential to work, right? Especially considering that they're improving Destiny and the way it actually runs on upcoming next-gen platforms. So 60 FPS and all of that stuff is going to be huge in order to keep Destiny 2 alive for a really extended period. So that's a positive, but once again, give us your thoughts down below. And otherwise for today, that's everything that we have to speak about in the video, guys. So I appreciate you tuning in as always. There's a lot of pretty exciting content coming down the road this season, so give us your thoughts in the comment section, but also a rating below very much helps me out on the channel. And also a final shout that you can save 30% on Now Drinks orders using code HOUNDISH. That one's going to be running until tomorrow. So if you want to try an all-natural drink that helps improve focus and memory for gamers and is super tasty, you can do that in the link down below. And once again, code HOUNDISH will save you 30% for the remainder of today. But otherwise, guys, thanks for watching today. And whatever you get up to, I hope you have an awesome week.